You are Brenton Harrison Tarrant. Mr. Tarrant, you are remanded without plea. Next appearance will be in the Christchurch High Court on 5 April 2019 at 9:15 a.m. I've noted that you're not making an application to be admitted to bail. I've also noted that you're not making any application for suppression of publication of your name or of any particular that could lead to your identification. I do, however, make an interim order until the date of the next appearance, suppressing publication of the name of the named victim or of any matter that could lead to that person's identification. That interim order is made on the grounds that otherwise there could be undue hardship to the family. On that basis, Mr. Tarrant, you are remanded in custody until 5 April at 9:15.
Please, Your Honour. Your Honour, please just stand down in custody.
Look, we're just working through what we can release in terms of those matters, and we will be able to provide you with more detail that I can't at this immediate point.
Could you suggest in broad enough terms that it was a commentary on what had happened?
Let's say this is a very wide-reaching investigation. We are speaking to a considerable number of people. Social media and other electronic forms form part of our investigation. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you very much for your attention.
Many of those posters online who engaged in...
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
New Zealand's Police Commissioner Mike Bush giving a press conference in Christchurch, an emergency services update, and what he said is that he's praised the work for everyone from local authorities to the ambulance staff, and in particular imams, for their help in dealing with the aftermath of that attack that we saw on the mosque in Christchurch. He also did say that it took 36 minutes from the time the emergency call was made for the police and the responders to show up at the mosque and apprehend the suspect. And he said the investigation priorities right now are what actually unfolded, how it unfolded, and the priority is for the public to be safe. And he also added that he has no intel about a current imminent threat, but he would never assume anything in this situation. He said that they're not searching for anyone posing a threat, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist.
That's right. I mean, he may not have had any prior convictions, as the police chief said there, but he'd certainly made his presence felt online. Easy to say in retrospect as people go back and look at his social media posts. But Jacinda Ardern, New Zealand's Prime Minister, talked about that in her press conference earlier on Saturday. And she said one of the big questions is whether he should have been on watch lists. More, maybe the police and intelligence agencies here should have known more about him just because he hadn't committed crimes in the past, or at least not ones that he'd been caught for, and no one had explicitly flagged him. Should the intelligence agencies have been more proactive in finding him? And she said that is an important question that will need to be answered. The police chief in his press conference talked about all the legitimate questions that journalists and the wider public have about not just how he mounted this attack, but why the gunman mounted this attack and exactly what happened. He defended the police's response. He said it was 36 minutes from the first emergency call to the gunman being arrested and in police custody. Now, all this happened exactly 24 hours ago now. It was virtually at this spot, 400 metres down the road, that the gunman went into the Al-Noor Mosque 24 hours ago and started shooting. And as I say, it was 36 minutes between the initial call and him being under arrest by the police. And in the meantime, he'd shot many people, most of the victims in this mosque, the Al-Noor Mosque behind me, about 400 metres back, and also in the Linwood Mosque. The police chief said that the police were on the scenes of the mosques much quicker than those 36 minutes. Now, he said, of course, there are various not conflicting, but complementary priorities that the police have at the moment. On the one hand, of course, they're doing their investigation into what happened here. They're also looking into the background of the man that we've seen appearing in court in the last couple of hours. He was living in Dunedin, a town about a 4-hour drive from here, south. and police have been searching his home there in the last few hours. That's another priority, making sure that there's nothing there that's dangerous. But he said as well as that, the police are providing a supportive role to all those members of families of people who've been killed and people who've been injured. That's another important role. And he talked too about the support role that police officers and those others that have been involved in this over the last 24 hours and will continue to be over coming days and weeks, the support that they will need as well. Now, we saw the judge just then in court talking directly to the man accused of, at the moment, just one murder. That's almost a formality to get him in the system. Many more murder charges will surely follow. He's been remanded in custody until the 5th of April. The cameras were allowed to film him, but we're not allowed to show him as he appeared in court. If we show him, we have to blur him for the time being. But my colleague, Kate King, was in court to watch that court appearance, and she said that throughout, the man, Brenton Tarrant, was looking at the media gathered in that courtroom and smirking. Now, over coming days, there will, of course, be identification of the bodies. There are still many in the mosque, the Al Noor Mosque behind me. We've seen hearses driving down this road to collect some of them in the last few minutes. Gathered just across a park from the mosque are many family members of those who think that their loved ones were inside the mosque when the gunmen entered. They have photographs with them. They are showing those photographs to police liaison officers, and slowly but surely the bodies are being identified.
Recep Tayyip Erdogan linked the attacks to what he calls the rise of Islamophobia worldwide, and he's urging Western countries to take action. Manifesto published online before the attacks praised the U.S. president as a symbol of renewed white identity. And Trump was asked about this earlier. Here's what he said.
I think it's a small group of people that have very, very serious problems. I guess if you look at what happened in New Zealand, perhaps that's a case. I don't know enough about it yet. They're just learning about the person and the people involved. But it's certainly a terrible thing.
Nihad Awad is the National Executive Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations. He's criticized the president for not outwardly condemning what he says is clearly a white supremacist hate crime.
The killer of this tragedy in New Zealand has cited or referenced Trump. And Mr. Trump should reflect on this. Very few people around the world admire him. And now the ones who are admiring him are the ones who see fear of the other. And he has a role to play in fixing this problem. He's not the only one who's responsible for this, but being the President of the United States, he has a lot of responsibility to reflect on.